Welcome back, kids. Hope you all are doing good. Let's begin with the chapter Metals and Nonmetals. Dear students, you observe different types of materials around you. Some of them are soft, some of them are hard. Can you classify them? No, not yet. After reading this chapter, you can classify those substances on the basis of metals and nonmetals. Now let's talk about metals. A metal is a material that is typically hard, opaque, shiny, and has a good electric and thermal conductivity. Metals are generally malleable, that means they can be hammered into sheets, and they are ductile, that is, they can be drawn into thin wires. About 91 of the 118 elements in the periodic table are metals. Some elements appear in both metallic and non-metallic form. Those are called as metalloids. Some examples of metals are gold, silver, iron, copper, and etc. Now, when talking technically, metals are those elements which are capable of giving their electron or capable of donating their electrons. Now, this concept is little bit higher for you, so you just remember the substance which is harder is called as matter. The Now, next category is the non-metal. What is a nonmetal? In chemistry, a nonmetal is a chemical element that mostly lacks metallic properties. That means they do not contain any metallic property. Physically, nonmetals tend to be highly volatile, which means they can be easily vaporized, have low elasticity, and are good insulators of heat and electricity. That means they cannot conduct heat and electricity. Chemically, they tend to have high ionization energy and electronegativity and gain or share electrons when they react with other elements and compounds. 17 elements are generally classified as nonmetals. Most are gases: hydrogen, helium, nitrogen, oxygen, fluorine, neon, etc. One among them is liquid, which is bromine, and a few are solids: carbon, phosphorus, sulfur, cesium, and iodine. Technically speaking, nonmetals are those elements which are capable of accepting the electron which is donated by the metals. Now let's talk about some physical properties of metals. The first physical property of metal is the ductility. Metals are ductile, that is, they can be drawn into thin wires. For example, gold, copper, silver, iron, etc. They all can be drawn into wires. The second property is the hardness and softness. Metals are generally hard in nature, for example, iron, copper, gold, etc. But exceptions are always there. We will read the exceptions later. The first The next property is the luster. Metals are lustrous. This means they are shiny. For example, you use gold, that is shiny, silver, copper, iron, etc. Now, density. Metals have high density, for example, iron, copper, gold, etc. The next the next property we talk about is the conductance of heat and electricity. Metals are good conductors of heat and electricity. That is, it allows heat and electricity to pass through it easily because of the free electron present in them, which you will read in your higher classes. For example, we have gold, copper, silver, iron, etc. They easily conduct the heat and electricity. Next is the melting and boiling point. Metals have high melting and boiling point. For example, when we talk about copper, iron, gold, aluminum, they have very high boiling and melting points. Next property we talk about is the sonority. Metals are sonorous, which means it produces sound when it strikes with another object. For example, bells, strings of guitar, etc. They are all sonorous as they produce sound. Next property is the malleability. Metals are malleable, that is, they can be beaten into thin sheets with hammer. For example, we use aluminum foils at home. Aluminum is a metal and we can draw easily it into sheet. Next examples are iron, copper, gold, etc. Next As we read the physical properties of metals, but we have some exceptional cases here. Let's talk about them. And the first exception is about the density. As we read in the physical properties of metals, that metals have high density, but alkali metals like lithium, sodium, and potassium have low densities just like nonmetals. Next is the physical state. Generally, the metals are in solid state, but mercury is a metal that is liquid at room temperature. This was all about the physical properties of metals. Hope you have understood the topic. Now, here are some questions for you. Take your pen and paper and write down the answers. Make a list of substances around you and classify them as metals and nonmetals. Write down what you understood about the metals and nonmetals in the PPT. Sum up the physical properties of metals with examples. Best of luck.